To write a really good chord progression, there are different techniques you can use as a songwriter. Certain tricks, like using what are called substitute chords to take a plain sounding chord progression to the next level. So in this video, I explain what substitute chords are exactly, and more importantly, where they come from in the circle of fifths, using some specific song examples. And by the end, you'll have a much better sense of ways to compose cool chord progressions. Now, one of the all-time best chord progressions ever is the old 1-5-6-4. 1, 5, 6, 4. We're going to morph this chord progression into a pattern that sounds even more interesting and unexpected. But starting with just the basic 1, 5, 6, 4, you hear this so often in music that it's almost a cliche, like in the song With or Without You by U2, and Demons by Imagine Dragons, and Train's song Hey Soul Sister, and Girls Like You by Maroon 5. These and many other songs use the same progression on repeat because it just sounds so good. These chords sound good together because of how they're related within a given key in the circle of fifths. Like in the key of C, for example, where chords 1, 5, 6, 4 are C, G, A minor, and F, respectively. If you just played these four chords over and over, adding a nice melody on top, you can write a good song. But since this progression is so common, it can also sound a little too predictable. So a trick to mix things up is to use a chord substitution, replacing the second chord in this progression, the major 5, with something else. So starting with the old 1, 5, 6, 4, instead of moving to the major 5 chord, try playing 5's relative minor, the minor 3 chord, instead, which in our example here is the E minor chord. So in the key of C, instead of playing C, G, A minor, F, you play C, E minor, A minor, F. Which also sounds good and still flows nicely, but with the minor 3 here, it breaks from your expectation a bit. In fact, a lot of good songs use this progression: 1, minor 3, minor 6, and 4, like the theme song from the TV show The Office, and Secrets by One Republic, and also Price Tag by Jessie J.
It's not about the money, money, money. We don't need your money, money, money. We just want to make the world dance. Forget about the price tag.
These examples are all in the key of C, just as an example, but the same chord pattern applies to all 12 keys. It's the same throughout the circle of fifths. And this pattern, 1, minor 3, minor 6, major 4, is similar to 1, 5, 6, 4, but with just one chord substitution, it sounds different enough to inspire multiple other tunes. But you don't have to stop there. You can keep substituting chords to morph this progression even further. For example, you can add even more variety by tweaking the chord in this second spot one more time. And instead of playing a minor 3, make it a major 3 to give the progression a more epic sound. So you get 1, major 3, 6, 4, or in the key of C, C, E major, A minor, F, where E is borrowed from over here in the circle of fifths. This progression still flows great, but with this major 3 chord, it has some extra oomph. And technically speaking, this major 3 works well because it's the dominant 5 of the 6 chord in this key. In other words, E major is the major 5 of A minor, the minor 6. Though it is not as common as the standard 1, 5, 6, 4, this 1, major 3, 6, 4 progression shows up in a lot of songs by artists like Green Day and Blink-182, among many others. Though I think one of the best examples is in Roy Orbison's song You Got It, which goes like this.
Anything you want, you got it. Anything you need, you got it. Anything at all, you got it.
It's just the 1, 5, 6, 4 progression with a twist using a chord substitution. One more example of this cool 1, 3, 6, 4 sequence is in the song Married with Children by Oasis, that takes this progression and expands on it by introducing another cool chord, a borrowed chord from a neighboring mode, which sounds awesome. And it goes like this.
There's no need for you to say you're sorry. goodbye, I'm going home. I don't care no more, so don't you worry. Goodbye, I'm going home.
If we look at the circle of fifths, it helps to explain what's going on in this chord progression, and it's really interesting. So looking at the key of C, for example, where C is 1, the progression is 1, major 3, minor 6, major 4, or C, E major being the dominant 5 of C's relative minor, A minor, the minor 6, and then we go to F, major 4, back to C. So C, E major, A minor, and F. Then the progression goes to this A flat major, or the flat major 6 chord, which is from C's parallel minor mode, C Aeolian. So this chord comes from C Aeolian, where C minor is the tonic, but borrowed in this progression to play nicely with the next chord, or the dominant of G major, C's dominant chord 5. So it goes from A flat to G to C. So together, these three chords, C, E, and A flat, form this geometric pattern, or this perfect triangle, which is why this progression sounds interesting and unexpected. In other videos, I go into more detail about the underlying geometry of music and how this geometry, these special relationships between notes, informs all patterns in music, from scales and modes to chords and progressions. And this Oasis song takes advantage of these geometric connections to incorporate not only substitute chords, but also borrowed chords from different areas of the circle of fifths to make a really, really cool song. So in summary, we can take the 1-5-6-4 progression and substitute the minor 3, or the relative minor of 5, to add some variety to this common progression. And then tweak it even further, making this minor 3 a major 3, or the dominant 5 of the minor 6 chord in the progression. And then in the last example, we also incorporated a borrowed chord from the parallel Aeolian mode, the flat major 6, to add even more variety and interest to the pattern, leveraging the underlying geometry of music to take things to the next level. And using the circle of fifths, you can navigate all of these patterns because they're right there, they're staring you in the face. And it is what music theory is by definition to see sound. In summary, substitute chords are awesome, so are borrowed chords. Using different patterns like this, you can really make your music more interesting than you might expect, even starting with a really basic progression like the 1-5-6-4. So hopefully this was helpful. Please let the algorithm know if you liked it. You can also find all of these diagrams in the library. The link is in the video notes. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.